Edition of the Art Lewis Show here on WSGW with our temperature outside about 10 or 11 degrees and about that inside. Our heating system was out this morning and it's being reset as we speak this morning, so it is getting warmer. And speaking of warming, we're going to talk about that today. A couple of guests with us. First of all, he heads up the Rescue Ministries of Mid-Michigan. He's been on so many times we should build him an office. And we say good morning to Dan Streeter.
Good morning. Hey, the office isn't necessary. Just do the paycheck. That's all.
Oh, you're going to give me a paycheck? Also with us this morning from Bay City, she is the Community Development Director. Debbie Kiesel is with us. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
We do have another coming
Yes.
eventually.
Yes.
So we want to start because we were kidding about the cold weather, but cold weather, for those of us that, have nice homes and heating systems, and we don't think about it. But there are folks who don't have those luxuries, and they find themselves on the street in this kind of weather, which can be fatal if you don't do something about it. So you've developed these warming centers. Tell us what it is, how you did it.
Right. So, first of all, I wouldn't even call it a warming center. I'd call it an overnight drop-in center. We would normally think, when I say we, I think the general public would think about homelessness and it get ramped up in concern when you see cold weather events like what we're having right now. But the reality is that the difficulties are happening all through the year. For example, the state of Michigan has about 31,000 homeless individuals, sheltered homeless individuals, and then about another 17% or so that are unsheltered. And so the concept of the drop-in center was to try to focus on those that are unsheltered, that for whatever reason that they're not engaging with shelter services, but they still have critical needs. And so it started to become aware in the city of Bay City and became a talking point in the spring of 2024. And part of the reason that it happened was because the Community Foundation president, Diane Mulroney, was concerned about chronic homelessness that was happening there in the downtown area, especially right there around the depot. And there were people that were congregating, some through the day, but more importantly at night, like around their dumpster and things like that. And so she contacted myself and my staff to just kind of ask some questions. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized that there was a growing chronic homeless issue that was starting to develop in downtown Bay City. And so Diane, to her credit, then started to rally conversation and brought a large group of people together to start to talk about the issue. And it didn't take very long. We had mental health in there, and we had representatives from the city staff and public safety, the local library, people who were being affected as well by what was happening. And so we started that brainstorming. It didn't take very long before I could kind of sense that everybody was kind of looking at me for all the answers on this, and I was
The answer man.
Yeah, well, when it came to homelessness, and I guess I can appreciate the fact that people, see us as having solutions, and but I had to scratch my head a little bit as to what we were going to do for those that wouldn't come into shelter, but were definitely experiencing troubles.
I guess that when I heard about it, I thought wonderful, it's great. But my question was, if they wouldn't come into the shelter for shelter services to start with, why would they come in just for the warming?
Exactly.
So to speak.
So that is what what came to mind was I have a friend who runs the Lansing City Rescue Mission, and they had a program that they'd been running for the last 5 years called Outreach, and it was basically to help those with chronic homelessness. So I first of all called up Mark Chris, the director, and asked, "Are you still running that program? And if so, how's it working?" And he says, just absolutely phenomenal. So I said, "Well, can I load up a bus load of people, and can we come down and see it?" And so to the credit here in Bay City, I had a busload of about 10, 12 people, and we went down and saw firsthand in the summer of 24 what they were doing in a service delivery model. So that's after we saw that, we were just convinced that we needed to launch this in Bay City.
And I've got to ask this question. So you have people who, up to this point, would not come in to the shelter, to Good Samaritan. But you open up an overnight center, a warming center, call it what you want, and they do show up.
Exactly, yeah.
These same people need 3 squares a day and all of the things you offer on the other side. How many of them transition to Good Samaritan from the warming center?
So that's a really early question because we've only been open now for 12 nights. So we officially opened the center January 14th. And it took us, from the time of concept to understanding that this is something that we should bring to the community, to then got really serious about it in the fall of 24. And then it took the entire year of 2025 to check all the boxes for funding that the city helped provide, and then all the compliance issues that HUD brings into play, and then finally, to be able to have the contractor be able to get to work, Serenus Johnson Construction, and then that took them a couple months to be able to pull that together to do the renovations.
Where's it located?
It's adjacent to Good Samaritan Rescue Mission, so we renovated an existing 2,000 square feet. It's on the very south part of our building that is facing Bernie Park. So we developed space for 35 individuals to be able to come in. And first of all, we're not calling it shelter. It's not intended to be, beds put out. It's about people coming in and getting safe. And there's no barriers. So then that way people can repeatedly come in. And we want to try to connect them to services. We want to try to, but you have to realize with this group, number one, heavy mental illness, a lot of substance abuse. And what we're also finding out is that there's a lot of people that have just fallen between the cracks. So my director of shelter services will share in a little bit some of the faces of what we've seen. And so we're thinking about where this is going to go and what other things we can do. But the reality is that when people come in, they can get a sack lunch. They're going to know a smile, acceptance. They can sign up to do laundry, get a shower, and most importantly, come in out of the elements. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be running this all year long. So right now, cold weather makes the most sense, but all year long, it's going to be great.
Debbie, what does this mean to the city of Bay City?
Well, it was a need that needed to be filled, and our biggest obstacle was funding. So everyone had a great idea, but we didn't have a facility. We didn't have operational funds. So we were able to look at our community development block grant funding, and we pulled together some funds that were unspent, extra program income, and just pulled all that together for about $250,000. And so that took care of taking a space that Dan had, or Good Samaritan had, and they were able to retrofit that. And then, but like Dan said, bricks and mortar were easy, really, at the end of the day. But then to figure out how to fund it to keep going for the operational funds.
And I assume, Dan, because you're not providing full services, it's not the $30 or $35 a night that it costs to house somebody in the shelter.
Correct. I mean, but it's still, and so we're working on the cost analysis on all that. We know. So this is the interesting part about how the funding came together in talking with city staff and also with the commissioners, that they have allocated part of the taxes that come from marijuana sales and to be able to designate towards this. And so this truly is a pilot program, and what I would call is helping to strengthen and elongate the safety net for those that are vulnerable in our community.
We have another guest in studio. Introduce him.
Yeah, so Jeff Hagenauer, our Director of Shelter Services, and so I come up with the ideas, and then he's got to do the implementation. Yeah.
Good luck, Jeff. We'll be back and talk to Jeff when we return. We'll take a break, and we will be back with more on the Art Lewis Show.
It's natural to have questions.
The perception.
And as much as you'd like to call it what you want to call it, all the news I've heard about it, everything I've said about it,
yes,
everything that I know that anybody else has said about it, has called it a warming center.
You know what? And we don't care what anybody calls it. Just come on in. Yep.
Well, I think right now it's important because words mean something.
Yes.
And then you look outside and you look at the temperature, and it's 11 degrees right now. I want warmth. I don't care what you call it. We want warmth.
Yes.
And that seems to be the way. So, Jeff, how is the response? I mean, what have you seen so far in the 12 nights that it's been open?
Yeah, so we've definitely seen an increase of utilization with this cold snap, no doubt about that. You know, we were probably averaging about 5 to 6 folks a night the first several nights, and then once this cold snap hit, I think we had 19 in one night. It was our largest night. Last night we had 15 individuals, so definitely much better use in this cold temperatures right now.
And I know since it's happened once, what happens when a family shows up? This one really surprised me.
Right. So it's the strategy right now is that the space is supposed to be for single individuals, and but with this cold weather, what we've instructed our staff is that we've got to just get people out of the elements, and so we're going to try to modify however we need to. So yeah, we had a mom and a dad with a 4-year-old daughter show up.
That's scary.
And we had no beds available in our family shelter. And so we just accommodated them there, and as much as what you can try to do to make sure it's a safe environment for those, because that's a whole lot better than them being out in their car or somewhere else out in the community during these cold winter nights.
So somebody shows up at this overnight drop-in center.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. What do you provide them other than a place to lay down?
So I'll let Jeff talk about that.
Yeah, so we're going to offer a sack lunch when they enter the shelter. We're going to offer them the opportunity to take a shower, do a load of laundry, and then just a place to stay out of the weather.
So, but there are additions. It's not just a place to sit down and wait for the morning to pass, or the evening to pass.
Right. So our hope is, and part of what we saw with the model in Lansing, is that with positive engagement with people that they can start to build a relationship with, then hopefully that will open up venues of trust. So even in this short time, we've already seen, I think, 3 individuals make the transition from the drop-in center to an open bed into our shelter. So we were able to help alleviate some of the concerns that they had about shelter, and so that became an on-ramp into that.
Which, as someone who's never been in that situation, hope never to be in that situation, it boggles my mind that somebody wouldn't want to come in for all the services you offer. In talking to these folks that come into the overnight center who have not showed up at the shelter, what's their reasoning?
Well, so
why are they distrustful?
Right. So what you have to first take a look and see, and I've said this many times when I've been on your show, people become homeless not because of a lack of money, but because they have a lack of relationships. And so what has happened on multiple times through their life, they have known rejection. People, you can't stay here, or they lose this job. So they become outcast within society. So by the time they come to our doors even for shelter, they lack a sense of hope and purpose. And so we're trying to help restore that. Well, for those that we're looking to help serve in the drop-in center, about 17% of the homeless population, so there was over 31,000 that were sheltered, and then you add another 17% that were unsheltered. And those are individuals, all those that are homeless, about 30% of them are diagnosed with some type of disability. Mental illness is probably one of the largest disabilities. And so when we say, well, why didn't they do this? Well, it's because they're struggling with, what we would consider rational thinking, because they have an illness. And so part of our passion with the drop-in center is building these healthy relationships, engaging with people so you can build trust. Right now we're in the brainstorming stages with mental health about how we can be able to try to expedite services, because this is a critical piece. Some of the people who need the services the most are in the most unstable situation. So if we can provide a piece of stability in there, that maybe we can help them reach a continuity of care that will help them to reach some stabilization. So it's a very difficult population to engage with, but we're hoping that with a very light touch, and it's also important, as Jeff and I have been looking for staff to bring into this, to also have a very welcoming presence when you first walk through the door. And so, individuals who are maybe even more skittish or apprehensive to begin with need to know that they're welcomed.
Out of curiosity, you have somebody living on the streets. You get this cold snap. They don't have televisions. They don't have radios. They don't have any of those things. How do you get the word to them?
Yeah, I would say that in a community like Bay City, it is interesting how word will spread in that community. There is, Dan mentioned about people losing those relationships with family and friends sometimes as they've kind of run their course in those relationships. But within this homeless community, there is a lot of tight-knit, helping one another and passing of information. And so no doubt that's spreading in the community throughout that population.
Deb, some of the individuals that are out all the time that see these things are your public safety officers. Do they have a role in this? I mean, if they come across these people?
Oh, definitely. I'd say all of our public safety team does. And then we have some community policing officers. So there's some relationships out there. And they have an idea, like if they're out and about. I don't know what we have for encampments right now, but they have a pulse on what's going on out there.
Is there a lot of encampments and things in Bay City? Were you surprised at the amount of need in Bay City?
No, because back when we started the mission 21 years ago in Bay City Good Samaritan, part of what made us aware of how difficult the issue was how many encampments that there were. And so, then that just kind of blew open the door that we needed to continue to do some service. One of the things that Debbie may not even realize is that we've already hosted the public safety officers. They came in for a tour and do some brainstorming and to meet our staff. So that is a very necessary part of that framework.
And there seems to be an obvious question. How long before one in Saginaw?
So I already have hopes that we would be able to provide a service like this in Saginaw. The reality is the reason why this got off the ground so quickly is a testimony to the care of the city staff and helping to come alongside and help make the finances happen, as well as the city commissioners. I've been getting very many texts from city commissioners because they've been very concerned about this issue, and so to their credit. And so now it's very rewarding to be able to see it open and helping to provide services. So we're going to be looking at the stats. We're looking at those that are serving, and really hoping then that will justify the case to garnish the attention of Saginaw City staff, and that hopefully we can provide something similar. If you talk to the service providers in the city of Saginaw County, they would agree 1,000% that it's much needed, and we probably would serve twice as many people as what we're serving in Bay City.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, talking to our guests in studio about the overnight shelter provided by Good Samaritan Rescue Ministries, the Rescue Ministries of Mid-Michigan in Bay City, and more. All that coming up. Let me talk about tires for a moment, because in this weather, you need good grippy tires on your car. Winter tires are different than all-season tires. And if you stop by Quick Lane Freeland, where they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost, you might find out the difference between winter tires and all-season tires. And I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to give us a quick little education on it.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures, unlike harder all-season tires which stiffen and lose traction in the cold. This flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. Stop into Quick Lane Freeland on the McDonald Ford property, and remember, that's the place to go for all of your routine service, but particularly all your tire needs since they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland, part of the McDonald Ford complex, where you'll find the entire lineup of new Ford products, as well as an extensive pre-owned lot for any budget. McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland, two names standing ready to serve all of your automotive needs in 2026.
A 401k can be an important asset.
And we're back with you here on WSGW. In the studio with us, Dan Streeter. He is, of course, the Executive Director, President, CEO, Big Kahuna of the Rescue Ministries of Mid-Michigan. Known him a long time. Also with us is the Community Development Director for the City of Bay City, and she is Debbie Kiesel. And also with us is the Shelter Director from Bay City, and he is Jeff Hagenauer. I get them all right?
You did.
Gee, okay, thanks.
You got a little bit of experience doing this.
So, my first thought was you mentioned Lansing and you went down and you viewed their concept and all that. Is this a mirror of what Lansing's doing, or did you change the model, so to speak?
Right now, we're mirroring because we've seen great evidence and what fit really well within their community. What both Jeff and I have both said to our staff as we're doing this, right now, let's not make any dumb mistakes, but let's not make any big changes yet either. Let's start to see how people present that are coming in. At the same time, and I think this is critical, is that we're building a stronger safety net. So the relationship that we have with the city, I think, is critical, not only because of the funding pieces, but just, you add public safety into that and making sure that everybody is on the same plan and know what's available. The partnership with mental health is critical, but also the partnership with Salvation Army and even Marion and Aaron Johnson at the Dream Center, people that are all really caring and compelled about those that are struggling and all have an interest and are trying to do something. And as we have more of these conversations and we're finding out where the gaps still remain, if we coordinate efforts, how we might be able to develop even better safety and strengthen that safety net. So
Have you had any
Yep.
conversations with Jim Barsha in the county for buy-in?
So we've had a little bit of conversations. I'm sure that they know what's going on, and so it'll be interesting. Hopefully, in the future, that the county can also become a partner in this. And so I'm
Yeah,
also
because
hoping that
this
we
doesn't know geographic boundaries. Even though
No.
the city is contributing, some of those folks that walk in the door could come from anywhere in the county, or
Exactly.
even non-county.
Well, and that's one of the important pieces is that people present. Now, obviously, it's heavy right now for those that are, immediately close by. But, as the word continues to get out, it's going to, people who are vulnerable are going to find and make their way there. And that's also part of the reason, why we're also looking to try to do something in Saginaw, because there are definitely many vulnerable people there.
So, staffing, you had to increase staffing to handle this, I assume?
Yes, we did. So one full-time and like 3 part-time individuals. Right. And there's also, so I'm glad you brought that up, there's also a tremendous opportunity for volunteerism. So if you go to our website, we have launched within the last 6 months a volunteer portal, where people can go to our website and see all the volunteer opportunities. Well, there's definitely spaces there where we're looking for volunteers to help out at the drop-in center. So you would come in and you could either do a 2-hour shift or a 4-hour shift from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, or you could do the entire shift. You go online, you submit your general information so we can do a very simple background check, and then you can start signing on. Click onto the box is all you got to do, and then you'll get a reminder, hey, I signed up for that shift, and we'll train you for it. It'd be so great to just have somebody that works side by side with our staff.
Just out of curiosity, Dan, as you look back to when you started the Rescue Ministries, following your dad's footsteps, do you have any idea how big it was going to get?
Oh, not at all. So even as I think over the last 20 years, what has happened in Bay City, we first started with just a women's shelter, and then the city and those in the area responded, which then allowed us to open up the men's shelter, then family shelter, and then the youth shelter, and then transitional housing and Labadee lofts, and now the drop-in center. So it's a testimony to this community. It's a testimony to city staff who have helped support us all the way along, to Dana Muscott and her leadership. And so I've never had anybody, I come to the city staff and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. They've never said, get lost. It's always been, that sounds very intriguing. Let's see what we can do to try to help. And that kind of partnership has allowed us to be able to just broaden the scope of services for people in need.
All right, one more break, and then we'll come back with our conversation with our guests. And we're back with you, talking to Dan Streeter, the Executive Director of the Rescue Ministries of Mid-Michigan. Deb Kiesel, she is the Community Development Director of the City of Bay City. And Jeff Hagenhauer, he is the Shelter Director for the Rescue Ministries in Bay City. The drop-in center, let's go over the hours again.
6 p.m.
Oh, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Okay. That
till,
opens.
Yeah, till 8 a.m. And every day, 365 days out of the year, and in leap year, 366.
So let me ask you this, Dan. And you're not a mental health professional, and I don't want to get into that. None of us are. You come across somebody who is out in the cold, no place to go. What should you or shouldn't you say to them to point them in the right direction?
How can I help? Is there anything I can do for you? You want to be very non-threatening, not anything forceful, and give them an opportunity to engage on their own. So, asking a question or being, non-threatening. And then also, a lot of times we grow up, and somebody who's in distress, mentally ill, we grew up wanting, it's good for you to make eye contact with them and